So multitasking is something that my brain does all the time, but really it just feels like things are just spinning around and mostly out of control. It's just like I can't even seem to land all the planes that are sort of rolling around my head. And so some of the times I think that that's okay. Like it feels creative. It feels like, oh, I talked about that, or I could think about this, or maybe this is just really all kind of a fruit of ADD, which happens a lot. And at the same time, I kind of submarine myself, or I sabotage myself, because I think, well, if I think about all these things at once, I can't actually get any of them done. How does the creative mind, God gives people creativity to actually imagine and develop and cultivate true innovation, true change? How do we even change as people in any real way? Not just adapting to our environment, but truly discovering something new that we can connect with and even become. Tim Harford is a really interesting thinker who writes about an idea that I think might help us at least begin to find an order to some of that, even an order in the chaos. One of the things that psychologists will tell us is that we can't actually multitask. It's funny because I see my wife do this all the time. She seems to have many things going on, and it's kind of shocking, and I always think to myself, I just can't do that. Turns out neither can she. She's just able to monotask many things in an order, and that's really what's happening, is that she's got the capacity to have 4 things going on and to change the channel one after the other, where I tend to get lost in all of that. But what they say is that your brain can't actually multitask. You can't focus on many things at once. Literally, your brain only focuses on one thing at a time, even though it might seem a little different. But that kind of multitasking is actually the fruit of chaos. It's the fruit of static. It's the fruit of kind of panic. We're having to do a lot of things at once. After all, nobody really looks forward to, or plans for the great multitasking event at the end of your day. It's just kind of what happens. But Tim Harford says multitasking, actually thought about differently, could actually be the most interesting creative space. In fact, the space where we might find true innovation. He calls it slow motion multitasking. Now, this is interesting because essentially what you're saying is that I'm going to take like 3 or 5 or 7 different big ideas that I'm working on and go ahead and load those out there as all these things that I am working on, right? Lots of them. And then I'm going to work on one at a time, but each of them is going to kind of be this open laboratory of thought. His thought, and I believe if you pay attention to the way he writes about it and says, talks about the historic people that do this, whether they be Einstein or any of the great minds of our time, is they seem to have multiple projects that they're developing, not only over time, but over years. And it's actually in having these boxes, these projects, and then getting stuck on one and deciding, okay, I'm going to climb out and get into the other, that literally you're spending so much time out of the box, getting unstuck, getting that thought in your mind that you can't get out of your mind gone, so that you can create space to create some sort of innovative idea. I don't know if you're a photographer, I don't know if you're a musician, I don't know if you're a pastor or a teacher or a mom. But this kind of thing really sets in front of us the idea to say, I'm not going to all of a sudden fall into this. I'm going to purpose a slow motion version of the different projects ahead of me. In so many ways, the Christian practice is built on the idea of slow motion multitasking. The idea of reading the Bible and struggling with everything that's in it, getting locked down and then moving into an experience where I go to a worship service, and then kind of getting locked down and going into a time of prayer and getting to a peaceful place, but a place where I've got some things, and so I get into some community environment. And all of a sudden, somehow in this slow motion practice of becoming with all of these beautiful tools that the Scripture and the community and the Spirit bring us, we begin to discover that we find innovation for our lives, we find freedom for ourselves. Maybe what we need to begin to do is realize that each one of these beautiful things actually is an amazing thing, but all of these things collectively that we're working on purposefully, in slow motion over time, are the places where we find true innovation and healing, where we get new answers, where we can understand more and more who God is and the things that are keeping us from being the most free and full, inspired, and fun versions of ourselves. Let's slow down and be intentional about our Christian practice, and in it discover a beautiful way forward.